Our adventure starts with an exciting day at the bog. I hope you're appreciating this stock photo image here. On a June day in 2016, Jack Conway, a turf cutter, was harvesting turf from the peat in Emlach Bog in County Meath, Ireland.
So is this a different type of turf?
Yes. So turf or peat.
Because I was genuinely thinking this is a guy who farms J.K. Rowling.
The much worse kind of turf. The bad turf. Turf farming. That's some kind of Twitter job. So, Jack Conway was harvesting turf or peat in a bog in Ireland when he dug up something very strange. So, turf cutters dig up the peat for predominantly use in like fireplaces because it's a really good like fire starter, and the peat is partially preserved decomposed sphagnum moss. The sphagnum moss is, so this is this is my biology like geography nerd stuff. Sphagnum moss creates layers of like spongy carpet and holds moisture, and it produces as well polysaccharides which act as preservatives because they're antibacterial, so that the dead moss plants just layer up and up and up and up on preserved previous moss, and they actually create this kind of self-sustaining environment for the new moss plants to live in, because they retain all this moisture, and the bog is like self-creating. It springs out of this wet environment, and it just reproduces that wet environment. I actually went on a geography trip to a bog in Surrey, and you can actually standing in the like sphagnum moss bog, you can kind of jump up and down, and the whole thing will like move like a waterbed.
Like you're jumping on jelly?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's like sponge. The whole thing is like wet sponge.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
A very exciting day.
Very exciting. Just inherently a very exciting day. But this waterlogged environment creates this acidic anaerobic environment which has incredible preservative properties and has been known to preserve things for thousands of years. It's actually the same process by which this is my prop. By which this this lovely jar of kale is being preserved. So that's lactofermentation. The anaerobic, the water creates an anaerobic environment, and the bog hasn't been salted, but this kale has also been salted to make sure that no other kinds of bacteria flourish in it, which would be harmful. And so then the lactobacillic bacteria creates lactic acid, which the acid also then creates this self-sustaining environment which prevents other kind of decomposing bacteria, and it preserves organic materials that is in it. What that means is every now and then, turf cutters especially, dig up something in the bog that has been there for potentially thousands and thousands of years.
Wow.
Because it's been preserved in this peat.
Love this stuff, Nat.
Yeah, can we guess what they found?
Yeah, give me some initial, give me a first guess.
Mammoth?
Bodies.
Woolly mammoth? That's my gut instinct.
Oh, woolly mammoth?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh, can you imagine finding a mammoth in the bog? That would be, what a treat.
Yeah. I'd love to find a good mammoth.
Rach, what did you say?
I said bodies. It was more vague than
Bodies.
woolly mammoth because it could be anything.
Yeah.
We'll get to bodies. So here are some examples of the kinds of things that people find in the bog. Bog oak.
Classic.
Yeah. So Rach and I grew up in the Fens, and it was a common kind of wish for people in the Fens, like full of farmland, and they'd all be hoping to turn up bog oaks in the farm, and like sometimes that would happen. So this picture here is a Fenland gentleman having discovered a bog oak, and this is the remnants of oak forest from over 5,000 years ago.
Wow.
That's been preserved in the peat in the fens. So most of the fens where Rach and I grew up now are all drained, so it's just sort of more dry farmland. But that peat and everything that's been preserved in it is still there until it gets dug up by tractors and things. And the bog oak is the most expensive wood in the world because it's so rare. So precious that it would be, and it's so hard and black that it would be used for like expensive furniture, but also jewelry. Like
rich person stuff. Rich person stuff.
Aren't these gorgeous though? Also noticing the like the shamrock in the jewelry, because there's lots of like wet, like bogland in Ireland, like that. Lots of these stories of, you know, amazingly preserved things come out of like Ireland, Scotland, the Fens, Denmark, the Netherlands as well. And as Rachel said, bodies.
Wow.
That's incredible, Nat.
Isn't it?
It looks like a statue.
It looks bronze, right?
Yeah. Like someone's carved something.
So this is Tolland Man, and he was found in Denmark in 1950. The family that found him, they were cutting peat for their own personal use, and they thought that they'd discovered a murder, so they actually called the police.
Oh, wow.
Because this body, which was discovered to be 2,400 years old, was so well preserved that they thought that someone had just died.
Yeah.
The oldest bog mummy was found in Denmark and is 8,000 years old.
8,000?
I don't know, Nat, if you've included in this slideshow any pictures of your A-level art, but Nat once did. I think you should put it in the edit. Nat once did quite a lovely drawing of a bog person.
A bog person makes it sound like some sort of like horror movie thing.
Yeah, it
You're
is.
thinking like
It
that's
kind
like
of is. I really like, when I drew it at A-level, it was like this wax crayon drawing.
Yeah.
I hadn't really done much research into it. I just had this image and I thought it was really strange and amazing. But some of the actual like the research into the deaths of some of the bog mummies that they found, like they've done like these ancient historical crime scene reenactments basically on these bodies are so well preserved that they can really tell a lot about how they died. Some of them are really horrifically like horrible violence.
oh god.
So let's move on swiftly to the to the treasure that Jack found on a June day in Ireland, in an Irish bog. What did Jack find? What's this? Can anyone tell me what this is?
Is it a seed? Is it an egg?
What kind of egg?
Big egg.
Oh, it is an egg.
It's not an egg.
Oh.
Is it?
Mammoth egg.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know, Nat.
Is it an alien? Is this proof of aliens?
If only.
Oh.
Jack Conway found 22 pounds of butter buried in the bog.
Oh,
Undisturbed
Bog
for over
butter.
2,000 years.
Wow.
Bog butter.
Bog butter.
Apparently, this one in particular even still smells like butter. Like it makes the room smell of butter. People are like, my fingers smell of butter after touching it.
That's so cool.
could you eat it? Have they? Because they found like edible edible honey from like a pyramid or something. That's
Let's find out. Let's learn
okay.
about the bog butter.
Tell me more now.
So yeah, I can't believe it's butter. Tons of these bog butters have been dug up over the years, and there's kind of records of people discovering bog butters from like way back in like 18th century, like 1700s. They're usually found wrapped in, like, contained in barrels, barks, and animal skins, or like animal bladders and things. They're found in peat bogs, particularly in Ireland and Scotland. Bog butters have been unearthed that range between like over 100 years old to 5,000 years old.
Wow.
5,000-year-old butter.
That's old.
Cow's long dead.
And that one contained over 100 pounds of butter, like in weight, 100 pounds of butter.
That's more butter than you can use. Why do you need 100 pounds of butter?
We'll get to it. And that was found in Ireland in 2013. Some of them contain lard rather than dairy, and most don't contain salt, which is what we usually use to preserve butter. So this is a quote from Reverend James O'Laverty in the 1892 edition Journal of the Royal Society of Antiquities in Ireland. It still retains the marks of the hand and fingers of the ancient dame who pressed into it its present shape.
What a dame.
To be called a dame. To be called a dame. Oh, that's goals, isn't it?
Isn't that special though? Like this sort of food that still has the touch of the person who made it and buried it. And it tastes somewhat like cheese. So I don't know how old the butter that this fellow tasted was, but somebody's been trying the bog butter.
I mean, some sweet bog butter.
Irish celebrity Kevin Thornton claims to have tasted a 4,000-year-old sample of bog butter.
Wow.
The big question, why did people bury their butter?
That is a question I have. That's a very big question.
Is it a squirrel thing where you don't want the other squirrels to know? Squirrels dig in places that they're not actually going to bury nuts just to confuse other squirrels.
To convince other squirrels that's what they're doing.
Cheeky. While salted butter has the shelf life of about like 6 to 9 months, and that's, whilst being kept at a cool temperature, which might be difficult to maintain throughout the year, particularly like they didn't have fridges. Butter that has been buried in a bog is still potentially edible after thousands of years. Obviously, they're not thinking about, some random guy digging it up 2,000 years from now when they're burying it.
Mm-hmm.
Unbury it and then it goes off in a couple months. Bit of a shame.
So another reason, and this relates to why would they bury so much? Why was there that 5,000-year-old 100-pound sample of bog butter? People regularly paid rent and taxes in food, and this made it really able to be preserved and kept for a really long time. And you can, this could be a whole farm full of cows. That's all their butter, and this is being kept to pay people.
But eels, as previously discussed on this channel, also a form of rent.
Imagine paying your rent in like a spaghetti bolognese or something.
And it also had the added benefit of being kept hidden away from looting soldiers. So you could bury, take all your precious, nutritious butter and bury it in the bog and remember where it was kept and come back and find it. There's a quote from the Irish poem Hudibras, which I'm sure I'm not pronouncing correctly. in 1689, which says, "It may therefore be termed a hidden treasure, which rust doth not consume, nor thieves steal away." So, DIY bog butter.
Is this like the kids TV show telling you how to make your own? You need some. What you need is some toilet roll holders, and a fairy liquid bottle, and some glue and some tape.
Here's one I made earlier.
So Ben Reed of Nordic Labs and butter maker Patrick Johansson decided to make their own bog butter and report back on the findings. This is another quote from that Irish poem. "Butter to eat with their hog was 7 years buried in a bog."
That sounds like poetry to me. It rhymes.
So Ben and Patrick decided that they would bury a number of samples of this bog butter, and they would make sure to keep at least one of them for a full 7 years to try it, because that seemed to be the recommendation from the poem. However, reading this, butter to eat with their hog, does that mean it tastes bad? Like, if you want to eat what the hogs eat, then you leave it for 7 years?
No, surely
Maybe
it's
they're
to eat
eating
whilst cooking their hog.
They're eating the pig.
I mean, not everyone's a vegetarian.
Stupid vegetarians, they didn't even consider that. Why would you be sharing your food with the pig when you could be eating the pig? Yeah, so they decided to keep a sample buried for 7 years. But fortunately for us, they didn't wait a full 7 years before they tried some of it. They came back just to see what was going on. And this is one that they dug up after 1 year and 6 months. It is still mossy, green and earthy. Maybe it was the fact we were also wet, a little smelly and surrounded by the moss like the thing itself. But the butter, eaten with muddy hands in the clearing in the bog, tasted really good.
I'm sure it did. That sounds deeply unpleasant.
I don't like unsalted butter very much on its own.
But if it was like kind of cheesy and funky tasting, right?
Maybe.
I mean, I could eat, like, do you know those little packets of butter you get like at a hotel or something?
Yeah.
I could eat one of those. Like, if someone would just hand me one, I would eat it.
Me too. I honestly just love the taste of butter a lot. But I like it.
I would wash my hands beforehand.
Yes.
But anyway, how many thousands of years does the cheesy funk taste take to develop? Does that come after one?
So, some of the kind of flavour profile of the butter has been described like this. The fat absorbs a considerable amount of flavour from its surroundings, gaining flavour notes which are described primarily as animal or gamey, moss, funky, pungent, and salami.
I don't think I'd want my butter to taste pungent.
So, the most important question of the video: would you eat bog butter?
I've just gone vegan.
So
I don't know where bog butter fits in this, because I'm not doing any harm to a cow that lived thousands of years ago, am I?
No.
That's true.
I would eat anything. I'd put anything in front of me and I'll put it in my mouth.
I want to eat bog butter at like every age. I want to eat like bog butter that's just been like cured for a few months. I want to eat bog butter that's been cured for 10 years. I want to try bog butter that's been in there for 100, and then I want to try bog butter that's been in there for 5,000 years. That's what I want to do.
Okay. Well, if we ever start a Patreon, let's put that as a stretch goal. We get bog butter.
Bog butter. If you enjoyed learning about bog butter, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, subscribe.
And give
subscribe.
us a little thumbs up. Let us know, would you eat bog butter?